Hello, I'm Austin's Animals, collecting all things furry and fantasy. You'll have to excuse my voice, I'm recovering from being sick, and today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite Shrek figures, such as... Huh? What?
Hail to your Orge, Lord Shrek.
Oh no. Oh, I told him not to get involved with the videos. We're not supposed to, I'm just dressing up as Shrek, not actual Shrek.
Don't you want to get maximum clicks, Austin? After all, your Shrek video's your best performing video on the channel. So make more Shrek content and talk about Shrek Lost Media.
Okay, well, you hold the puppet. In order to get maximum clickbait clicks, we're gonna have to talk about some Shrek Lost Media. Being a channel about collecting, of course it's got to be related to collecting toys and action figures. So let's just get a little bit up to speed on the Shrek action figures. I grew up with a lot of Shrek toys. If you look behind me, you'll even see some on the wall. Let me go ahead and get some, actually. We'll get the dragon, since the dragon was one of my favorites. Still an awesome figure. This is the Shrek 2 dragon. So I had a Shrek birthday party when I was 4, and my mother bought me all the Shrek toys. I had the complete wave of original Shrek 2 action figures, which included Shrek, Donkey, the Dragon, Puss in Boots, and Princess Fiona. I also had the Far, Far Away mini playset, and some of the other fun plush toys. I also had one Lord Farquaad action figure from the first movie. I don't know why this was the one figure I had from the first film. I just assumed that he was probably still on the shelf 3 years later on clearance, and that's where my parents bought him. But I did always find it funny that he was a lot nicer than the other Shrek figures, and I didn't know why that was. That, of course, being that he's made by McFarlane Toys and not Hasbro, who made the second movie toys. By 2005, I had already moved on to Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, and I wasn't buying new Shrek toys. What I didn't know, however, is that there actually was a second wave of Shrek 2 movie toys. They did the Gingerbread Man as a full-size figure, they did Human Shrek, and they did Noble Steed Donkey when they transform into kind of the sexy versions from the end of the second film. And then they also re-released Puss in Boots. So he's kind of on the back of the card as another figure. And I don't know why they did that. I assume it's just because Puss in Boots was popular and they wanted to release him again. We have a mystery today that may open up more questions than answers with regards to the Shrek 2 toy line. Now, before we get to the crux of today's mystery, which is a Hasbro Shrek 2 figure I've never seen or heard of. First, I just want to say that yes, I am aware that there is a very rare Series 3 of the Shrek action figures that includes mostly repainted releases of older figures. These include Santa Shrek, Santa Donkey, Fireball Puss in Boots, which I assume means Puss in Boots has had one too many Fireball whiskeys, Play-Doh Shrek, Out of My Swamp Shrek, which is Shrek, now a gun owner defending his property, and 2 more Play-Doh Shrek and Donkeys that, while advertised off as figures, are really just hollow cans of goop packaged as figures. And finally, how could I forget Super Bowl Donkey, complete with baby dragons to play football with. I don't know what was with this last wave. It seems very cobbled together and odd. It's kind of a shame we didn't get figures of the fairy godmother or Prince Charming that were necessary, but so be it. So I was browsing eBay recently. What I like to do is type in different franchises I like and see recently sold listings. And I was browsing through the Shrek action figures to try and complete my line. I saw some of these more obscure figures, but then I saw one figure that I had never seen before. Princess Fiona in her white wedding dress from Shrek 2, complete with her ogre form as a pack-in figure. Now, the Fiona that was released in the line, I have here. Fiona was released in the original wave of Shrek 2 figures in her green outfit from the first movie with a Prince Charming bop bag, which is as odd as it sounds. It's basically like Prince Charming is a bowling pin. I don't know why they did this, but they must have wanted to make her more action-oriented, since, I mean, she's a girl character and girl characters don't sell well. Now, Fiona does know karate, of course, so maybe they just wanted to incorporate that into the figure. I remember owning this figure as a kid and being really confused why she wasn't in her ogre form, when she's only in her human mode for about 15 minutes in the second film. And the original McFarlane line did include pretty much all merchandise of Fiona in her human form to avoid spoilers. You'd think with the second film, where they don't have to hide the fact that she's an ogre because it's no longer the big twist, an ogre figure would be included. But Fiona as an ogre is only included in the Shrek minis line for Shrek 2. Additionally, Fiona doesn't even wear this green dress that often in the film. She wears her white dress in the sequel, her wedding dress. So I just think it's odd she wasn't in her wedding dress, which is the case with this action figure I can't explain. Now this figure here was released with a running change later on, where Prince Charming's trim on the Prince Charming bop bag was updated to be a more shiny gold and not the color of his hair. I don't know why that running change was made, but I just thought I'd note that. Now, this figure, let's talk about this. First, I just want to reiterate, because this sold online, and I was kind of waiting a bit after the sale to make this video, please, 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 do not bother the seller of this item or the person that bought this item. This was an online purchase, an exchange of goods that we have no business in. So, whoever sold this or whoever has this, I have no qualm or beef or anything. I actually think it's really cool that someone out there got this unique piece that I believe is one of a kind. I've been thinking about this figure and where it came from, and I have a theory that this is a one-of-a-kind, unproduced prototype for a figure that was unreleased in the Shrek 2 toy line. Let me explain. First, let's look at the figure itself. The figure is Fiona in her white dress, which is simply a repaint of this Fiona. The sculpt is completely the same. However, instead of a Prince Charming bot bag, she is included with her ogre form. The figure is a package sample and looks near complete, like this one here. However, the seller did include images of the back of the packaging that show the same back of the packaging as this one, complete with the same Fiona picture. So the figure did not have unique packaging, which almost makes her some sort of variant and not a unique release, which I think is very odd. Additionally, the SKU, or the SKU, on the bottom is exactly identical to the regular release Fiona figure, and then the gold trim variant that was released. So if this figure did release, it was not its own release, but rather a variant of this one, which I think is very odd for a figure that has its own paint job and its own second plastic piece included. Speaking of which, what is with that second plastic piece? Is it a bot bag? Because this one, it kind of makes sense why Fiona is kicking. She can knock down Prince Charming. But with this odd figure, why would Fiona knock down an ogre version of herself. It just seems very odd. Unfortunately, the seller's description does not include much more detail. It reads as follows. 2004 Hasbro Shrek 2 Princess Fiona figure, new, rare, fire. Perfect for any Shrek fan or collector. See pics. So that's pretty much all we have. Thankfully, the seller included plenty of photos of the figure from all angles, where we can see all the things I've pretty much confirmed. That it's a repaint of the regular Fiona figure, that her Prince Charming bot bag is replaced with her ogre form, and that the back of the packaging and barcode is identical to the regular release Fiona. There is one more detail the seller includes that got me thinking about this theory I have, and that is that the figure is not completely sealed in her packaging. The bubble is actually lifting from the card, and it was smart of the seller to include that detail, which means it's not a mint figure. Now you're thinking action figures lift over time. That's completely normal. But I don't know about these Shrek figures. The bubbles are very durable. It's shaped like Shrek's head, which is adorable. And this sample here, actually I have quite a few carded Shrek 2 figures, and they've never had any bubble lifting. I've actually never seen a Shrek 2 figure where the bubble has lifted. Additionally, if the bubble did lift, it would leave residue of where the glue was on the bubble. So why is the bubble separate from the card back if there's no glue? Well, I don't think this figure was ever fully assembled on the packaging. I believe this figure is a proof of concept figure shown at Toy Fair. It is a prototype. So when action figures are shown at Toy Fair, they're typically shown loose and hand-painted, incomplete, often held together by metal pins, and are not final versions of the figure. As for packaged samples, it is very rare that a complete packaged figure is displayed at a toy fair or convention, because why would you prep a completed action figure when no stores have ordered it? You're not gonna make, a completed figure until you can produce let's say 100,000 of these Fionas for Target and Walmart. There's no point in making a complete sample of a figure when it's not ordered yet. So look at these examples of Star Wars figures shown at various toy fairs, and notice how the bubble is separate from the card back. They've not been attached yet. And this is because the figures inside aren't even complete. They're just simple prototype figures. This Fiona is constructed in a similar way, where a simple prototype figure could be inserted into an existing card back. I think what they did was they took the card back of the regular release Fiona, one that hadn't been assembled yet, and they simply had the bubble separate from the card back, and they slipped in the prototype figure and put it out as a display piece. Now, as for the figure itself, I believe she's incomplete and is a proof of concept figure. I do think the final figure would have been a repaint of the existing Fiona. It seems like a waste to tool a new Fiona. But as for her ogre form, I think that may have been temporary. The figure looks sloppy and unofficial and almost bootleg in design. Actually, I've seen Fiona figures that are bootleg. Fiona figures that are bootleg and look nicer than this. And it's kind of sad that this would have been our only figure of Ogre Fiona in scale with the Shrek line, because they've never made an Ogre Fiona as part of the main Shrek figure line for all three films. But, that's going on another tangent, that we need an Ogre Fiona figure. But I think, because of the figure's bulk, and you look at how wide she is, granted, Fiona is very thick, I think this figure would have opened up at some point, and the Fiona figure would have gone in the ogre form to sort of transform between human and ogre, thus recreating not only the transformation from the first Shrek movie, but the transformation from the end of Shrek 2, where she is wearing the white dress. Finally, backing up my theory, remember that Series 2 of the Shrek 2 movie toys I mentioned. After the movie had released, and that human Shrek no longer had to be kept as a spoiler, they released a line of figures that contained human Shrek, that transforms into Ogre Shrek with plastic pieces, as well as a figure of Donkey in his noble steed form. I think to complete out the three, an ideal figure would have been Fiona transforming into her ogre form. Transforming Shrek, transforming Fiona, transformed Donkey. But instead, Puss in Boots was included as a re-release of the same Puss in Boots from the first wave. So what exactly happened? I think one of two things. I think either the complexity of the figure could not be figured out, the design work. They just couldn't get Fiona to fit in that ogre form. But I'm less inclined to believe that. I think with a little more tooling, the transforming figure could have easily been done. They did it with Shrek. Instead, what I think happened is Puss in Boots was a much bigger hit character than they had anticipated. I mean, it's hard to underestimate how popular Puss in Boots instantly was. There's a reason we've had 2 Puss in Boots movies and over 100 episodes of a Puss in Boots TV show. He may be the most popular character in Shrek other than Shrek. He's much more popular than even Donkey. So, I think when this Puss in Boots action figure sold much, much better than expected, they must have decided to pull the white dress Fiona from the lineup, save a bit of money, and instead re-release the regular Puss in Boots figure. I mean, if you look at the wave that followed, Wave 3, it even has its own version of Puss in Boots that they made up, the Fireball Puss in Boots, which means every assortment of Shrek figures included a Puss in Boots, all 3 series. Again though, this is all just wild speculation, and I don't know where this Fiona figure came from or ended up. From what I gather, the person that sold it was simply a toy dealer that deals in old new stock of toys. Again though, please don't track down the seller and bother him or her. Don't do that. But if you are into collecting Shrek, I would love to have some information regarding this figure. Who knows, maybe I'm just needlessly rambling, and that this Ogre Fiona was released as a regular Shrek figure, that she is just exceedingly rare. Because this figure did sell for a lot more than the other Shrek figures in the line. So, either this is the rarest figure of the Shrek 2 line, or this is a one-of-a-kind prototype. Either way, from what I can gather, the figure is lost media. I could not find any evidence of this action figure's existence anywhere on the internet. Through Figure Realm, through Shrek collecting groups and Shrek collections, and just my own knowledge of Shrek toys. I don't mean to brag, but I am kind of knowledgeable on Shrek. I have right here, I could just tell you from left to right, this is the European-only Burger King Shrek 2 figure, the Hasbro Shrek 2 Donkey figure that smells like waffles, and the Lord Farquaad figure from McFarlane from the first release. Shrek had a lot of figures over the years that were exclusive to European countries, given Shrek's global popularity, so it's possible this Fiona figure may have simply been a foreign release that slipped under my radar. Either way, I'm asking you, the viewer, or anyone out there that collects and knows Shrek, did this action figure commercially release? And is there any way I could go about finding one of these? Because I would love to have it. I always felt like Ogre Fiona was underrepresented, given she's the main female of the franchise. I mean, licensors must just figure, well, human Fiona is prettier. And human Fiona is pretty, but I like her ogre form. But that's never the form they seem to release as an action figure. I mean, heck, look at this terrifying Build-A-Bear Fiona. They literally just made her a mask that goes on top of the regular Shrek doll. That is what nightmares are made of. And that's how I'm going to end my video, is you now knowing that the Build-A-Bear Fiona exists and is the scariest thing ever. So, that's today's video. I just wanted to ramble a bit on this Shrek mystery. I wasn't originally going to make this, but I just kept looking at these photos of this Fiona figure, and it was keeping me up at night. I was laying in bed thinking, where does this Fiona figure come from? Why does this figure, why have I never heard of this action figure? So, that's that. Thanks for watching. Shrek Puppet, do you have any words of advice for our viewers?
If a ball's too big for your mouth, it's probably not yours.
Well said.